Welcome to Green Road TV.
Today we bring you the recap of a Nollywood movie In Between. Sit back, relax and enjoy.
The story begins with a young boss in his office when one of his friends came to him to tease him of not going out, that his woman is not even in the country. Why will he stay idle all the time without stepping out of the house nor the office to a phone alongside his friends and colleagues in the office? Mr. Jeff is the young boss and he is the CEO of the company. He responded politely to his friend that he's not in the mood for hanging out now, going out to have a drink alongside with friends, in as much as they were willing to bring him some classic girls according to them, that we is his mind and keep him ablaze. On his refusal, he stayed back at the office and refused to step out to the friend while his friend left for his own outing. His office aide called him over the phone to let him know that the traffic was much and he would need to take another route in order to get home in time, so he decided to pass through a particular route via some sex workers we are standing waiting for the potential clients to approach them. To his greatest surprise, he never understood exactly what was happening until he drew closer and discovered that these girls were loosed and they were out there looking for men who can patronize them for money, and he was shocked at this instance that women could actually go out looking at or men to sleep with them in order to get money. At this point he was no longer himself. He had to drive home and kept on wondering what exactly could prompt these girls behaving in such ways. This became a body on him. He had no choice but to discuss this with his friend, and his friend told him these girls love exactly what they do, in as much as they have their own personal reasons for going out to meet men for money purpose, but he was finding it difficult to believe the fact that these girls are actually in love with what they are doing. So his friend decided to take him on a tour in order to play his doubts that these girls actually love what they do. On reaching there, he discovered that truly these girls were actually waiting for the potential clients, as they were rushing to meet them and tell them to patronize them. To his greatest surprise, he was wondering why his friend would make mockery of them by telling them that he will actually patronize them by how to repark and then come back. He was finally difficult and was very curious to know the reason why these girls are actually doing this, so he decided to take a different turn by returning back to the same street to meet these girls and to ask one of them to follow him down to his house like he was a potential client. Immediately they get obliged and followed him in his car. On the way, I'm going to get requested for how money, that is to show how they were curious about making the money, they were not about being friends with anybody. Immediately he told the girl that her money is intact and gave her some bunch of money, which was even more than what was supposed to be paid to her. The girl, out of surprise, told him that she was going to stay for 2 months. On reaching, the girl was surprised when he offered her a seat and a meal. Immediately he told Mr. Jeff that they should go inside and continue what brought her to the house, and Mr. Jeff told her that tonight she's his guest and he decides whatever they do in the house. Mr. Jeff was interested in getting to know her story and to know exactly what was behind her doing the lifestyle that she was into. He started by wanting to know the girl's background, where she was from, and to know her story, and the girl told him the sad story about her life, how she and her father are all struggling to survive after the demise of her mom, and she had siblings to take care of. It was so touching to Mr. Jeff, and Mr. Jeff was so sad about her situation. Mr. Jeff told her he wasn't interested in having some sort of fun with her, but he wants her to stay in the house for the night in the guest room, and that was how she passed the night in the guest room, waking up the next day to leave at noon. The house chef and the security guard were wondering why the boss brought in a slut into the house when they barely see him with women. At the office, he told his friend that he brought in a gel from the street into the house last night, and the friend was so surprised that Mr. Jeff could do such a thing. He believed that these girls cannot be rehabilitated, as they are solely responsible for the act. They are in love with what they do, and there is nothing Mr. Jeff can do about it. And Mr. Jeff told him that there must be something to do about this, cause he is not happy the way these girls are flaunting their bodies and selling their bodies on the road, all for monetary gains. He believed something can be done about the situation. If I am able to save just one person, then I am okay. Mr. Jeff responded swiftly to his friend, who doesn't believe these girls can actually change their ways and become better humans in the society. Just as they were still in the conversation, he received a call from the office aide that one of the girls was waiting at the reception, and immediately asked there's the office assistant to send the girl, and he turned back to his friend and told him he was about to eat off his words. Immediately Mr. Jeff engaged Lydia in a conversation. He asked Lydia if Lydia would stop prostitution if she got a better option of going back to school. She became very silent, and Mr. Jeff asked what was the reason for her silence, and she responded that she would gladly return back to school if she has the opportunity, cause there is no money for her to go back to school with at the moment. Mr. Jeff out of kind heart obliged to pay for her school fees. Lydia broke down in tears as she was surprised someone will pay for her fees. Immediately Jeff asked if she can stay with her friend while he gets an accommodation for her, and she agreed immediately. Mr. Jeff's wife, who was not in the country, was concerned about the fact that women can be savages when it comes to man, and she was not ready to lose her man to any side chick for any reason as she talks over phone on a live video with Jeff. He responded to the wife by telling her that nothing of such will happen, that he just wants to make life more meaningful to those girls on the street and nothing more. In another scene, Mr. Jeff was sitting in a lounge waiting for his friend to join him at the lounge. At the same time, there was a lady sitting right opposite Mr. Jeff in the same lounge. She goes by the name Fina. She drew closer to Mr. Jeff and requested for a drink from him. Mr. Jeff was about responding to her when he got a phone call from his friend that he was no longer turning up for him, so Jeff turned back to lady and asked what was she saying, and she said she requested for a drink from him, and he gladly offered a glass of wine to her. Fina was curious and asked what was his name, and he answered, "My name is Jeff," and he asked back. She said her name is Fina, and she immediately asked what was Jeff do for a living, and Jeff told her that he is into security agency. She asked if there was money in the business, and Jeff answered immediately, "It pays my bills," and she got interested in him, and immediately she obliged to keep him company as she told Jeff that she does that for money. She made advances on Jeff, and Jeff immediately rejected while asking her if that was how she kept on harassing men at every bar she visits, and she said that he shouldn't pretend that he loves it. And the surprised-looking Jeff asked her how much was her bill to keep him company at his home for the night, and she said 20,000 naira is what she charges for her company. Jeff agreed, and they both left the scene for Jeff's house. Reaching his house, Fina made advances at him, and Jeff told her that he wasn't here for that. Reason why he brought her home was to know much about her, at least he should know exactly the reason behind her being a prostitute, and that was so crazy that the lady felt embarrassed that she was not ready to tell anything about herself, but Jeff pushed her to, and she told that she was a graduate and there was no job. That was the reason she decided to go into prostitution, and she was ready to stop prostitution if she could get a better opportunity, and Jeff obliged to give her a better opportunity in the research company where she will be paid a good amount of money, and she now said she needed to think about ABD. Mr. Jeff gave her his complimentary card, and the Fina left. The next day, an assaulted-looking Fina walked into Mr. Jeff's office looking helpless. Jeff was surprised at the situation. She claimed she was attacked the previous night while she was at a place of prostitution. Jeff felt very sorry and obliged to take care of her treatment, and she said she has taken some painkillers and there was no need for that, and Jeff took her home. Immediately, he took her to the guest room and told her to rest while the housekeeper takes good care of her, and he left for the office. The previous girl he helped, Lydia, brought food for Mr. Jeff while in the office and told Mr. Jeff that he was a good man and that was how she could pay back by cooking for him, and Jeff was so happy that the lady was in appreciation of he did for her. Lydia left the office and met Fina as she was heading for Jeff's office. Lydia was surprised that Fina knew Jeff. Lydia told Fina how Jeff took her off the street and gave her a better life. At this point, Fina thought it wise that she needed to get Jack's attention and maybe settle down with him, so Fina confronted Mr. Jeff asking to know exactly what is happening, that if she was just a victim of his humanitarian act, and Mr. Jeff told her that she is solely responsible for actions, that she can go ahead and whatever she feels it's better for her. Fina, thinking she was smart, decided to take over Mr. Jeff's house by returning back to the house and never wanted leaving. She also pretended that she has decided to take the job that Mr. Jeff initially actually offered her while she never had that in mind. Botswana has selfish gains on this day. Mr. Jeff's wife, who was abroad, returned home only to find out that Fina was now living in Mr. Jeff's house, and Fina had no coffee in her. On seeing the wife, she was so careless to say harsh words to her which got her hungry, and Chanel left Jeff Richmond home. Discovered the damage that Fina had caused his marriage, he decided to ask Vina to pack out of his house and finally refused. As she was going over, yet that she had her own plans with him and there was no way she was gonna give him up for any other person out there, and Mr. Jeff ordered his security guys to chase her out and Fina had to leave the house forcefully. Jeff rewarded his housekeeper with the job he had in mind for Fina as a way of paying the housekeeper for a job well done. Jeff's wife had to run to his friend, telling his friend exactly what had happened, that she has lost her man to some sort of girls who he decided to help in the street, and what she has gotten in return is heartbreak after leaving the United States of America to visit for his party. His friend told the wife not to worry, that there is something that she doesn't know, that the friend is not the way she thought. He was only trying to help this girls out of the street, and that was all, and he cheered the wife up, and the both went to meet the others girls and all Jeff's house workers, who we are already at home planning for a surprise birthday for Jeff. When Jeff got back home and discovered that he was being pranked, and it was a surprise birthday that was arranged by his friend and his housekeeper, shortly Fina got into the surprise party with some police officers demanding the arrest of Jeff, that Jeff had wanted to rape her, but the housekeeper was on the know about how Fina was trying to seduce Jeff all the while, and her missions was proven abortive as Jeff wouldn't oblige. The housekeeper said that Fina was only trying to frame Jeff because he had a good heart and intentions to take her off the street and give her a better life, but she wanted more than just a better life, including Jeff himself, and that was why she framed up everything, and the housekeeper brought out her evidence in her cell phone, which the police officers and decided to arrest Fina and set Jeff free. Thanks for watching this beautiful recap. Please do well to subscribe to this channel. See you in another video.